Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com and the Pewter Report podcast. Happy Thursday to everybody as we get closer to that weekend. And hello to everybody just getting into the chat as we have another great show ahead, specifically talking about day 3 of Bucs mandatory minicamp. This is the finale of Bucs practices until late July, so they will have a little bit of a break. But before that, they went after it one last day, and the good thing is practice was still very intense. A little bit shorter, but certainly intense and competitive, and we love to see it, and we love all you Pewter people, so let's get it rocking and rolling. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is my fellow colleague from PewterReport.com. He's been out at minicamp all week with me, and he was on the show yesterday. Adam Slavon. Adam, what it do, baby?
Hey, what it do, Mr. Matt? So it may have been a short practice today, like you said, but it wasn't short of takeaways, especially from the press conferences after. So definitely excited to get into this one with you because you did the insider and you had plenty of highlights in your notes.
Yes, I did, of course, with the hockey assist to you as well. And, we were going to do some of the discussions about players and that had press conferences today. It was Bucky Irving. Todd Bowles obviously starts, but Bucky Irving, Graham Barton, the first-round pick, of course, and then Luke Goedeke, a fan favorite and personal favorite of Adams, was speaking as well. But you guys, well, some of you may be new. If so, welcome. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Stay for a while. But for those that are veterans of watching the Pewter Report podcast, we don't really have many rules. We like to go with the flow, get a little wild and crazy. But one of our rules is that if you super chat us, we get to your super chat. Doesn't really matter what the topic is. We are happy to get into it. Now, this is Bucs related, but thank you right off the bat, starting the episode. That's how you set the tone. So I'm loving this. Thank you to Hammy Actual for the $1.99 super chat, who says, how has Bucky looked? Of course, talking about Buccaneers rookie running back Bucky Irving. There he is on the screen at the moment. I will say, when we talk about OTAs, which has gone on, and then minicamp over the last 3 days, it's of course a huge disadvantage to the offensive linemen. I think they kind of suffer the most from not wearing pads and things of that nature.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that running back is the second position that kind of benefits the least from OTAs and minicamp in terms of like showing their entire skill set. There's still tons and tons of benefit of learning an offense, learning a new offense, being a rookie, and just understanding what it means to be a professional in the NFL. But in terms of all the things that people who like Bucky Irving, what they love about his game, he hasn't really been able to show that too much. So to answer this question, how has Bucky looked? He's been solid. I don't think he's even really been able to show his receiving prowess. He didn't get to a ton even at Oregon. But it is something that he wants to add. I will say, though, and he mentioned this today, he is putting in the reps after practice as well. He still goes out there with Kyle Trask, who we'll talk about today. He goes out there with Kyle Trask and gets in that extra work, putting in the reps. So as far as from a work ethic standpoint, fantastic. As far as production and things of that nature, nothing off the charts, but that's kind of also to be expected at this point of the season.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, Matt. And it's hard for running backs because, like, wide receivers, they still have to run the routes. They still have to create the separation. For running backs, they just run up the middle with no contacts. You don't know how many yards they would have picked up if they would have missed a tackle. So it's really hard to judge how he's looked so far from that standpoint. But you mentioned it with the work ethic. You've almost seen him put in more work and have more of an opportunity after practice working with Kyle Trask every day. He was out there today doing it. In the past, he mentioned during his press conference today that he gets like audio from Kyle in the morning to go through like a routine in terms of like digesting the playbook. So from that aspect, I think Bucky's doing really well. but you will have to wait another month to fully see his skill set really translate.
Right, because kind of the two best traits of Bucky Irving and kind of the book on him when the Bucs drafted him is that he bounces off tackles. He's a tough guy to bring to the ground, and when he sees a hole, he hits it and bursts into that second and third gear and second and third level as well. This picture, for example, like I don't know if Bucky is wearing pads. Who says that the defender even gets a hold of him like they do in this picture? And also, how do you even know which hole is going to be open because of the play design, because of who's blocking who? So it's nothing against Bucky Irving. It's just very difficult to tell at the moment. And I'm glad you brought up the thing he said about Kyle Trask. It's probably something I should have kind of followed up on, because when he said it, I was not confused. I was just, it piqued my interest when he said, I listened to the audio that Kyle Trask has put together. So is he just listening to an audio book of Kyle Trask of like, here's the play, here's the design? Is it Kyle Trask play calls like set hut, like green 80, blue 45, like that type of thing? I'm not totally sure, but I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. If it's an audiobook, hey, release it, make it go public, could be a bestseller. But is it voicemails? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. That might be something when we get back from, or when we get to training camp, or if we get another opportunity to speak to Bucky Irving, that's definitely something I kind of want to know a little bit about. And what was cool during mini camp, we obviously had Rachaad White on the other day and then spoke to Bucky this afternoon. And it's been downplayed, the quote unquote rivalry that could be coming about with Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, because they're on the same page. They want to work together. Rachaad White mentioned it being a 1-2 punch with him and Bucky Irving. Bucky, the two times that we've spoken to him, I've just been very impressed with his calm, cool, collected, and casual. I'll add another C in there. Just his casual attitude. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because like when he's on the field, he's bringing it. He's bringing a ton of effort too. I just mean like, all right, you want me to be the third down back? I'll be the third down back. You want me to be a starter? I'll be the starter. Kickoffs? No problem. I got it. Like, he is really open and willing to do every single thing. And he said, like, it's kind of a trait that he had going back to college, going back to high school. He is ultimately a team guy that is pretty fun to be around as well. So he kind of spoke about just leaning on Rachaad White and Chase Edmonds, because everyone else in the room is pretty young. Like Sean Tucker's a second-year player, and there's a couple of rookie running backs in there as well. But this is what Bucky Irving had to say about leaning on Rachaad White and Chase Edmonds.
I mean, there's always room for improvement, room to learn. So I'm just leaning on these older guys to learn from them. Rachaad White, Chase, and them guys have been great leaders for me, helping me with the playbook, helping me with things that I need to know. So just pretty much leaning on them guys, and pretty much I'm going to fit in on wherever the coach needs me to play. I'm not really necessarily got no role yet, so I'm just going with the flow until my number's called.
Adam, what's your overall thoughts or expectations of how Bucky will factor into the offense this season?
Yeah, kind of wanted to touch on your point with Bucky really wanting to fit in any role on the team. And of course, it'll be a battle between him and Rachaad to get touches in the backfield. But they're like two of the most quiet and humble guys to be competing, like to get touches. And like just listening to Bucky, like he sounds really humble, but he also has like a pinch of humor too. Like he was talking about Baker Mayfield and, hey, I'm gonna love getting those checkdowns if he gives me the ball. When it comes to his potential impact on offense, again, really have to see it next month, like how dynamic and elusive he could be in the backfield. But really excited. Like Todd Bowles mentioned today that this has been one of the smarter draft classes, like in terms of guys picking up the scheme and the playbook. And Bucky really seems to like fall in line with that and being mature, but also like, I don't know. I think that he's going to be really competitive and he's going to really push Rachaad White to get touches.
Yeah, I think part of like being in a smart draft class is also being self-aware. And I think we saw that a lot with Graham Barton when he was speaking today. But you mentioned Todd Bowles. Let's get to that video of Todd Bowles talking about this being one of the smarter draft classes that the Bucs have picked.
One of the smarter draft classes as far as catching on to the scheme that we've had, and that's got to continue in training camp. And between the heat system and coming in pads, that's going to be a whole different world for them too. But I feel confident they can get that done.
And then Bucky was asked about building that chemistry with Baker Mayfield as a receiving running back, because the Bucs sort of do require that in their offense. Like, again, I would argue after Mike and Chris, Rachaad White was the most important player in the Bucs offense last season. I actually don't even really think it's that much of an argument.
Yeah.
But so we'll see. Again, it'll determine how much of a role Bucky Irving has, but he was a fan of Baker for one particular reason. Maybe you guys can figure it out.
It's great. I mean, I watched Baker growing up. He loves to throw the ball, the check down. So if he could do that, I love him for sure.
It's a quick video, so I'll play it one more time.
It's great. I mean, I watched Baker growing up. He loves to throw the ball, the check down. So if he could do that, I love him for sure.
I'm not going to lie, the little laugh at the end kind of
Yeah.
cracked me up. I just, like, I don't know, it's something so playful about it
Right.
that I liked.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to talk about, to kind of switch gears a little bit, and then we'll kind of break down all of practice and get back to the press conferences and everything like that. But since we're talking about the running backs, and we haven't mentioned Sean Tucker at all, again, there's not too much you're going to see from the running back room at this point of the year. But in terms of a depth outlook for the Buccaneers, I have a feeling, because it's not just obviously Rachaad White is going to be starting out as RB1. Who knows what'll happen? Bucky likely is RB2. Chase Edmonds certainly will have something to say about that. But it will be, the top three will be Rachaad and then some combo of Bucky and Chase Edmonds.
Yeah.
Where Sean Tucker falls into the mix, that's honestly all going to be on Sean Tucker. Can he make this roster? Yeah, he could definitely be there as a running back 4, maybe even dip into running back 3 if he balls out and Chase Edmonds gets injured or something else happens to the other running backs. But there's 2 other running backs in particular that have been taking a little bit of notice just based on performance and connections and things of that nature. One of those running backs, they're both undrafted free agents. One of them is running back DJ Williams. He wears number 30 right now. So if you guys happen to be at training camp or see videos and photos that the Bucs post, he wears number 30. He had a very nice play today working with John Wolford, where it was a screen pass, nicely timed. And screens in practice are always a little tough to gauge, because it's like, would this defender have fought through a block or made a tackle here versus 10 yards down the field? But it was a nice little effort by Williams on the play, where he took it, ran right up the field. Technically, it was a touchdown. Again, like, he may have been tackled at the 5 or 10 yard line, but a nice little burst of athleticism, followed the blockers, didn't just run ahead of the blockers. I think that's kind of important on screen plays, because that happens here and there. And then the other one didn't necessarily make a play today, but Ramon Jefferson, I think we mentioned him the other day. He's number 45, so he's taking the Devin White number. A guy that is built, as Sal 319 says, DJ Williams is a sleeper. But Jefferson, a guy that obviously has familiarity with the man on the screen there, Liam Cohen, because he coached him at Kentucky. He played at Kentucky. And he's just built so differently than any other running back in the Bucs running back room for the time being. I'm not saying he's going to be even a guy that makes the roster. But remember, last season, the Bucs they had Keyshawn Vaughn for a bit. They obviously ended up letting him go. But they had Sean Tucker on the practice squad. They also had Patrick Laird on the practice squad for the whole season. So the Bucs are no strangers to keeping 2 running backs on that practice squad, and I don't think would even bat an eyelash at trying to do it again. And that's what makes the Sean Tucker thing so interesting, because yes, he's chasing, no pun intended, Chase Edmonds and Bucky Irving to a degree. I didn't even plan that one.
That was pretty good.
At the same time, he's got to watch his back a little bit because Williams and Jefferson may end up being on the practice squad, where I don't know if the Bucs would keep 3 running backs on the practice squad. But Sean Tucker, if he doesn't kind of pick it up, they might go with kind of the next big undrafted free agent. So I just want to put that on everybody's radar that there are more running backs in the mix than I think a lot of people realize outside of Rachaad White and Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and definitely worth mentioning. One other note on the Williams play I thought kind of caught my eye is he caught the screen pass up the middle of the field. There was a bunch of guys around him, and it looked like he still would have got a lot of yards. Like, he made a lot of guys miss and really got up the field in a hurry. So I thought that really caught my eye. And then with Jefferson, he really is built different. And having that familiarity with Liam Cohen, I think it really helps him, kind of gives him the inside edge to maybe take over Patrick Laird's spot. But with Sean Tucker, he either needs to step it up or perhaps he could be out the door.
And it's one of those things, like, I've noticed something from Williams. I've noticed something from Jefferson. Sean Tucker got a couple handoffs today, and one of them, he just got stopped. Like, it was a handoff like to the outside of the tackle. It wasn't a pitch, but it was one of those longer handoffs. And again, there's no blocking and all that type of stuff. But he just got stopped right away. Like, didn't even try to chug forward or anything like that. And I'm not even saying I'm down on Rachaad White. Not Rachaad White. On Sean Tucker. But come on, man. Give me something positive that I can say. Like everyone else, we've pretty much said positive things about, except for Bryce Hall, who didn't really participate today, but kind of got cooked yesterday in practice. But outside of that, I mean, at this time of the year, it's way easier to be positive. Like, who have we been negative about? Bryce Hall and Randy Gregory. And Randy Gregory has not showed up. And like, that's pretty much what we've been negative about. We're trying to find only the good things. So Sean Tucker, this could all certainly change by the time training camp gets around and he picks it up and shows up a little bit more. But Bucs fans, just keep in mind, there's a lot of times there's different battles, positional battles that go on. And it's not always who's going to be the starting corner or who's going to be the starting guard, like which the Bucs will have this year. But if you're interested in some of the smaller scale battles for position 3 and 4 on a roster spot, I think running back is a dark horse candidate for one that kind of may bubble up to the surface as training camp goes on, as we get into August and even September, like Labor Day weekend, when those roster cuts come around. So just something to keep an eye on. Another thing to keep an eye on is all the great flavors of Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast. The vibes are very high on this show, and the vibe flavors of Celsius energy drinks are all fantastic. You see the Galaxy, Astro, and Cosmic vibe on the screen. I love the Arctic vibe. That's my personal favorite. It's like a blueberry-ish type of flavor. Tropical vibe is great. Fantasy vibe as well. Don't forget about the fantasy vibe. But there's no sugar. It's a great way to start your day if you need a little pick-me-up. It's a good substitute for coffee as well. If you're trying to eliminate coffee, go with Celsius. And if you want to have a Celsius energy drink, you don't know where to go get one, that's fine. As Shaggy says, Dragonberry, that's fine too. Yeah, there's all great flavors of Celsius. Go to Celsius store locator, as Paul Bowen says. It's a vibe. Punch in your address on that Celsius store locator, and it'll tell you the closest location where you could pick one up. Could be a Walmart, 7-Eleven, Target, health and fitness store, or, Adam, it could be your bodega.
Bodega.
It was good. And once you keep going to your bodega and you want to buy Celsius in bulk, you can buy it in bulk. Get that variety pack, because variety is the spice of life. There's so many awesome flavors of Celsius. Go to Amazon, click on the subscribe and save, and you have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. That's the beauty of it. You set it up when you want to set it up. And just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast. All right, let's break down this practice today. I know we talked about it a little bit, Adam, but because it was the third day of practice, typically in the Todd Bowles era, and even going back to Bruce Arians, the third day of mini camp is a little bit shorter, about an hour, sometimes a little bit less. a lot of the starters don't necessarily play. And we kind of saw that in full today, because outside of individual workouts and the warm-ups to get things going, Baker Mayfield did not participate in strictly the red zone 11 on 11, and then just like the regular 11 on 11 that takes place at midfield or so. And because of that, it was Kyle Trask starting at
Trask
quarterback.
time.
It was Trask time. Adam, why don't you tell the Pewter people a little bit about how it went this afternoon? Or I guess it was really more the morning. But what went on with Kyle Trask today?
Yeah, so with Kyle Trask, he got the starting reins per se, with Baker Mayfield sitting out. And I thought he did enough. He was kind of like that point guard, just kind of distributing the ball around. He helped move the offense down the field pretty well. A lot of receivers made some big plays. Two in particular, Raheem Jarrett. He had 3 receptions, and there was one where he really created separation from Tyreek Funderburk. And Funderburk has had a really good camp. And somebody that Todd Bowles mentioned, like, really excited to see him with pads on, going full speed at training camp next month. And then with Sterling Shepard, the newest wide receiver addition in the room, made a couple really nice catches. There was one where Trask, he kind of did a jump throw when Shepard was going in motion on the right side. Shepard was wide open, and he just like skipped into the end zone very merrily. But with those two, with Jarrett and Shepard, I thought that both of them really had good days. And that was a product of Kyle Trask really moving the ball. And Kyle Trask, you mentioned it in the Insider, not the flashiest guy, but I think he does enough to where, heaven forbid, he's starting a game for the Bucs this season. He'll keep the ship afloat. He'll do enough to move the ball.
Yeah, and I kind of go back to when we were lucky enough to have Greg Cosell on the Pewter Report podcast a couple of months ago. It was right before the draft, because I remember talking a lot about Ladd McConkey. But anyway, we got to talking about Kyle Trask after talking about Baker Mayfield, and he pretty much said Kyle Trask is where I kind of expected him to be, as like a solid backup in this league. I still think there's a lot of mystery in general about Kyle Trask, because we haven't seen him. He got in one game against Atlanta in Tom Brady's last season in a game that didn't matter for the Bucs, and he played only I think 2 drives in the fourth quarter or whatever it was. And then he got the one play against the Colts, and I'm not going to get
a nice pass to Godwin.
Liam Cohen said that, actually, one of the first times we spoke to him. But I think Trask has shown that obviously Baker Mayfield was the right pick to be the starting quarterback, and we all know how the season went and how the contract negotiations went. But I think Trask has, as you said, kind of done enough. He is solid enough to not be the starter for the Buccaneers, but if he has to start a game or 2 or whatever because of injury, or has to come into a game because of whatever happens, there are certain backups that will come into the league and immediately crap their pants and not be able to move the football.
Nathan Peterman comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. Nathan Peterman was the exact guy I was thinking about. And your team just has no shot at all to even keep the game close. Kyle Trask, because he checks the ball down a lot, he's not a risk taker. And obviously, when you are a risk taker, that's where the kind of the flash comes in. There is just, like, even the play to Sterling Shepard, it was just a simple, hey, roll out, there's Sterling Shepard, bam, and kind of Sterling Shepard did the rest. He can make the right reads. He's not always going to be the most accurate. But as far as backup quarterbacks across the league go, I feel better about Kyle Trask than I would say about half the other team's backup quarterbacks, which I think is a solid spot to be in. If we're going to talk about wasting a second-round pick, that's a completely different discussion, and one that we can have, in these next couple of weeks when there's not as much Bucs football to talk about. But today, I think, was another good example. There was no insane plays. Yes, he had the nice touchdown to Shepard. He got on the same page with Jalen McMillan, which was really nice to see. But outside of the big play to Rakim Jarrett, which honestly was more Rakim Jarrett making a great play than anything Kyle Trask did, Trask showed that if a guy's wide open down the field, he can hit that throw and make the right read and go to it. If it was one-on-one, jump ball, or throw it into a tight window, Kyle Trask just isn't making that throw. So he's never going to be the guy that's going to win you a game. But as far as safety concerns and keeping you afloat, like you said, riding the ship, that's what Kyle Trask is going to bring. And that's essentially a microcosm of what was seen from Kyle Trask at today's practice.
Yeah, and just kind of the point about Trask making the right reads, you don't see him ever really throw interceptions like during practice. Like, he's smart with the football, but there was one play today where he kind of held on to the ball too long, and that's where Jose Ramirez stepped in, and he kind of met him in the backfield, said, "Hey, what's up? I would have had a sack on you, but we don't have the pads on." I thought Ramirez has overall had a really solid mini camp, and without Randy Gregory there, he's kind of getting a chance to maybe showcase some of his skills in being that fifth or sixth outside linebacker. Kind of mentioned it on yesterday's show, where that's kind of where it's headed right now, as it doesn't seem. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on where Gregory's future really is with the team, but Jose Ramirez could be a guy that makes it.
Yeah, I want to hold that thought on outside linebacker for a second, and I do want to talk about that. But we did mention Sterling Shepard and Rakim Jarrett, so I want to talk about that and kind of close the book and then move over to outside linebacker. But I think everything you said about Gregory and Jose Ramirez also plays into this this question from Jesse Presto, so we'll address it all. Which position group has the potential of having the most depth? So outside linebacker, I think for sure is one of them. The other one, which going into training camp, I didn't feel this way about it, but based on what Rakim Jarrett did and what Sterling Shepard could do for the Bucs, I feel so much better about the Bucs wide receiver room now than I did even a week ago.
Yeah.
And now I think it's a really, really skilled group even after Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, because Jalen McMillan has done things to make you kind of believe in what he can do. I know the pads aren't on yet, but I know I've hurt myself in the past with this, but I think this time's a little bit different because he was a third-round pick, and injuries kind of forced him to fall back, kind of like Antoine Winfield Jr., who had some injuries and fell back a little bit.
Yeah.
But seeing what Rakim Jarrett has done the last 2 days, creating separation, making big plays down the field, making plays really all over the field, short yardage as well. Rakim Jarrett is really, if he can keep it going, can push the envelope, I think, a lot more than anything the Bucs had last season. And then you add in Sterling Shepard, and this kind of goes back to what Baker Mayfield was saying, that like bringing in Sterling Shepard is just going to push everybody because that skill position, it's a survival of the fittest type of thing.
Yeah.
Sterling Shepard's just dipping his toes in. And yeah, he made a play today where, there's no Jamel Dean. Antoine Winfield Jr. barely played. It wasn't the starters out there. But man, wide receiver, I think this year more than the past couple is going to be a force to be reckoned with. What do you think?
Yeah. I was kind of thinking of that earlier. Like, this is going to be my third season covering the team. And my outlook on the wide receiver room is that this is the most talented group that the Bucs have had since I've seen them. I mean, you have a nice blend of youth and experience. Obviously, Mike and Chris aren't going anywhere. But Jalen McMillan, every single practice, I don't know. He just he flashes. He does that play where you're like, that's a good wide receiver. He hasn't really dropped anything. You have Trey Palmer and the big play ability, the speed, the vertical threat. That's there. And then you have guys like Rakim Jarrett and Sterling Shepard, who, if Shepard just shows flashes of what he was with the Giants in like the first couple years of his career, that's a really good 6 option at wide receiver. I mean, and then the familiarity with Baker and just kind of being that veteran in the room. He could really be like that David Moore last year, but maybe even a little bit more than Moore kind of was. But when you look at it, I think that's a really good room. And another room I was going to kind of mention on the topic of having the most depth is safety. I really think that like the combination between safety and corner, there's like 6, 7 guys that really are competing for like 4 or 5 spots when you look at it. And whoever's not going to win between Tyke Smith and Christian Izien, that's a really quality like depth piece there. And then in the safety room, you have guys like Kayvon Merriweather, Tavir Thomas at nickel. Also, he can compete. And then Marcus Banks is another guy who's kind of flash. Funderburg. Like, there's a lot of quality options in the secondary as well.
Yeah, I think safety legitimately and honestly could be. Now, granted, it's a little apples to oranges because, like, you're just going to play Antoine Winfield Jr. and Jordan Whitehead, where, like wide receiver, there's way more rotations. Outside linebacker, they do a lot more rotation. But, yeah, that 1-2 punch of Winfield and Whitehead, and then Tyke
one of the best
Smith,
in the league.
One of the best, for sure. Tyke could end up winning the nickel spot, but, of course, he is going to be trained at safety as well. We're talking about Christian Izien potentially being your fourth string safety after being a starting slot corner the season before. I think depth may honestly be the strongest. Might be the strongest for sure. So I think you make a really good point. Corner is one of those before minicamp. I would have said definitely up there. But the fact that Bryce Hall hasn't played well, Funderburg has been very fun.
Yeah.
He's a guy that Todd Bowles is a fan of, that I think everybody wants to see with the pads on, because we kind of saw that with Servassier Dennis last year, where like Servassier was awesome in minicamp and
grabbing interceptions here or there.
Yeah, he had interceptions all the time. And then granted, he got hurt in training camp, but it wasn't like, he had a million interceptions like he did in OTAs and minicamp. So I'm in full agreement with you there. And then to kind of bring it full circle, I think outside linebacker has to be in that running as well. Despite all the Randy Gregory stuff, you got Yaya, Marquise Watts. Scott Reynolds predicted either yesterday's show or the show before that he thinks Marquise Watts is going to start outside of on the other side of Yaya Diaby. Jose Ramirez, like you mentioned, Adam, had that sack today and has really just transformed his body, which was super important for him. But if Jose Ramirez is like your last guy and he's getting sacks more than some of the other people, and we haven't even talked about Anthony Nelson at all during minicamp, or, JTS, who's in a contract year, who will at least be motivated to get work done, whether that means re-signing with the Bucs after the season or getting a fresh new start somewhere else with the new payday. There's hungry, motivated guys at outside linebacker. Even Yaya, Yaya's only in year two. He's got a lot to prove that he's not just a one-season wonder. I think outside linebacker, whether or not Randy Gregory is back, I think I'd put safety 1, outside linebacker 2. Oh, man. I would
wide receiver, though, has a case.
Wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 3. Corner 4. Man, who would be 5? Quarterbacks don't count because you only have the running back quarterback playing. Running back, I don't know. It's a lot of unproven guys. The depth at tackle is not too bad.
Inside linebacker, maybe.
Yeah, again,
Kalen DeLoach, Servassier.
I'm gonna go tackle at 5, but what do you think?
I think your top 3 would be mine, and then I would say 4. I don't know. There's something about that running back room. I think there's 3 quality options there that could potentially get 50. Well, Chase Edmonds at least get 50 carries or more. And 5th, offensive tackle is interesting because you have the 2 big guys, and then there's still depth there too with Justin School, he's kind of filled in throughout camp. I'd probably say tackle 5.
Yeah, it's weird because you don't want your backup tackles to outside linebacker. You rotate guys in and they get a chance to play. Defensive tackle, you get that, but offensive line, backups only come in because of injury. It's not hey, you get a break this time around. Like wide receiver, you wrote. Offensive line's like the only position really where you're not rotating guys in and out. So it makes it a little bit tougher. But anyway, that was a good little side tangent on the depth of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So yeah, that was some of the big stuff that happened at practice today on the field. If you want some big stuff to happen off of the field, how about a big cruise ship? More specifically, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cruise ship, which is coming up in March.
We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course, we're playing pool volleyball.
Hey, we on the Bucs cruise, of course. Anytime I say Tampa, they will say Bay. Tampa! Hey! Tampa! Hey! Tampa! Hey!
We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course, I've got my Super Bowl 37 hardware. What do you think?
We're on the Bucs cruise, and of course we had a pirate night. Arr!
Arr!
Join the hundreds of Bucs fans for a lot of fun on the third annual Tampa Bay Bucs Cruise, which sets sail March 7th through the 10th in 2025 on the beautiful Celebrity Silhouette ship. The 3-night cruise begins in Fort Lauderdale and visits Key West and Bimini in the Bahamas. Last year's cruise had Yaya Diaby, Rashad White, Luke Goedeke, Kate Otten, Greg Gaines, Jamel Dean, Christian Izzian, Super Bowl 37 MVP Dexter Jackson, Hall of Famer Warren Sapp, the radio voice of the Buccaneers Gene Deckerhoff, and others. And even more players are expected next year, as well as a special guest appearance by Derek Brooks. There will be photo and autograph opportunities with players, a Raise the Flags sail away party, VIP parties with the players, special player interviews, a water volleyball challenge, Bucs trivia contests, and fun games and more. Reserve your cabin now on the 2025 Tampa Bay Bucs Cruise, where drinks, including alcohol, Wi-Fi, and tips are all included. That's with a $200 deposit bonus per person. Refundable until August 16th. So visit TampaBayBucsCruise.com. That's TampaBayBucsCruise.com. You can also give them a call at 1-800-975-7112. 1-800-975-7112. Let's get to the press conferences that we had after. I know we played a little bit of Bucky Irving, so we kind of covered all of that. Todd Bowles, we had him talking about the smartest draft class that the Bucs have ever had, but also who's impressed him. This is what he had: 4 players in total.
Yeah.
I would say, obviously, Bradenson from the Giants, he comes up. Not a popular name, but he comes up, as well as Philly. Both guards come up. That's going to be a heck of a battle. I'm really looking forward to seeing that right there. Thunderbird comes up. He's a guy that's flashed. Pads. And everybody else is going to have to see. Banks have come up. Banks have showed something that we're interested in seeing the pads, and we're going to have to see.
So if you weren't able to hear Coach Bowles there, he said the 2 guards battling for the left guard spot, Ben Bredeson and Sua Opeta, in the video. And I appreciate Bowles for this because I think it's happened to everyone. Like he said, Bredeson, who they got from the Giants, and then he was thinking Opeta and just said, and
Guy from Philly.
Yeah, the guy from Philly, Sua Opeta. He's got like over 90 people to, think about. So I don't blame him for that. I do that all the time. Like, oh, what about the guy that played at Arizona State? Which was Rashad White, but That's a bad.
Kind of like a
example.
teacher, like in August when they welcome in a new group of
Yeah.
kids to teach, and you're like, I don't know their names.
Yeah. But that was funny for sure. And then the other two are both rookie undrafted free agents. It was Funderbuck, who we've been talking about, the undrafted free agent from Appalachian State, and then what's his name? Marcus Baggs he's a safety from Mississippi State. So I appreciate Bowles actually giving a legitimate answer, because in the past he's like, we got to wait till the pads come on. I can't wait to see this guy in pads. I can't wait to see that guy in pads. So I appreciate him obliging to the question that was asked. I am a tad curious on how he came up with the two offensive guards, considering, as we kind of began the show with, there's just not much to see from the offensive line at the moment.
Yeah, and just kind of wanted to touch on, like, he actually mentioned names. Like, it kind of seemed like Bowles was more willing to give answers today. It might be because he doesn't have to talk to us for, another month now?
6 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, but interesting with Bredesen and Opeta, like what he garnered. Maybe it's just them being veteran presences, like helping out Graham Barton and like adjusting to the offense. Maybe they've acclimated well, but it's really hard to tell until they're actually on the field, like going at it and like zone run packages and things of that nature. Another thing kind of wanted to touch on with Todd Bowles was he mentioned that they have a hell of a schedule coming up this year, and facing both teams that were in the Super Bowl, have all the championship opponents, and a really tough like slate of games, especially from weeks 4 to 10. We've had a show touching on that and all the opponents, but Todd Bowles really mentioned that as well.
He did. Here's the video of him saying it.
Just the understanding of what we have ahead of us. We play both Super Bowl teams. We play everybody that was in the championship game, plus the division itself and some other teams. We're gonna have a hell of a schedule. So we know how hot it's gonna be in summer. Really, just coming back in shape, ready to compete. And a lot of things that can happen between here and next month. Don't be that guy getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's always the message every time. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that ends up on the news for all the wrong reasons. But as far as the hell of a schedule, this isn't related to Todd Bowles specifically, but I think the whole, this team has a first place schedule, I honestly think it's a little overrated, in my opinion. One, teams change every year. You never know what happens with the fallout of contracts and things of that nature. But also, it only affects like 2 opponents that you play. Like the whole NFC South still has to play the Chiefs this year and the Chargers. And, they still have to play the Cowboys and the Eagles. That doesn't change. Now, obviously, it hurts that the Bucs have to play some of the other first place teams like the Detroit Lions. And yeah, that's not the best. But I think it's just, and the Ravens in this case this year, I just think it's a little overrated with they're playing a first place schedule. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that, especially in the aspect of teams really changing year in and year out. Like there's so much personnel movement with different coaches going to different teams, players signing, rookies coming in. It's really hard to base it off of like where teams stood last year, because every year is different. I mean, you've seen that with the Bucs the past few years with all the turnover that they've had, and going from having a veteran laden roster to a roster that's really young. So the Bucs, that like, they still have some tough opponents, and like that's obvious, but there's also a lot of winnable games there too.
For sure. I mean, the gauntlet, of course, is Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, San Francisco, and then the bye week. But I mean, do you sacrifice that so you can get Giants and Panthers out of the bye, and Raiders as well, and then finish the season with the Panthers and whatever comes of the Saints at that time? Overall, I don't think it's the most difficult schedule that the Bucs have had in the past, 3 or 4 seasons. It's also a little difficult to kind of set an expectation for the Buccaneers because, 2022 was certainly a disappointment. It's Brady's last year. You go 8-9. Yeah, you win the division, but that team clearly was not up to par. Then you go 9-8, and on the one hand, you're like, wow, they did this with Baker Mayfield, like new quarterback, new offense, all this stuff. None of this was expected. But then, I don't know, part of you thinks like, well, are the Bucs really this good, or did they benefit from, hey,
NFC
like
South.
from the NFC South, like 9-8 in any other division, they either don't make the playoffs or they're playing. Well, I mean, I guess Dallas lost to the Packers, but like, I don't know if the Bucs beat the Cowboys, in that wild card game, or they end up. Who's the other seeding? It was the 49ers.
It's eluding me right now. But
Yeah, it was the who won the NFC North? Oh, the Lions. Yeah, so
the
like
Lions, yeah.
right. So the Bucs could have ended up playing the Lions in the first round or the Cowboys, because the Niners obviously had the bye. Are we sitting here saying the Bucs would have thrashed the Cowboys the way the Packers did? I know the Bucs thrashed the Packers a couple weeks before, but
Yep.
I don't know. I think a lot of it was they benefited from playing in the NFC South, which isn't good. So, Bowles isn't going to stand up there and say, oh, well, we got a really crappy division, and so we can at least check off three wins because of that. But at the same time, I think if the Bucs don't get double-digit wins this season, it would be a disappointment because you're kind of stuck in the mud. Like, you went 8-9 and then 9-8. What exactly are you as a team? Because we could sit here and say they did all these great things. They re-signed Baker. Mike Evans is back. Antoine Winfield Jr. is signed. But if all this money is being allocated for 8-9 and 9-8 seasons consistently, like, I don't know. If they go 9-8 and make the playoffs, does Todd Bowles get another season? I don't necessarily know. What do you think?
That's an interesting point in that, like, the Bucs have allocated a lot of funds towards these 8-9, 9-8 teams, and it begs the question of what the ceiling is for the team, and like building towards the future when you don't want to pay for mediocrity, but you also want to like toe the line between building towards the future. And to Jason Light's credit, I feel like that he's done so. Is when you look at Baker Mayfield's contract, there is kind of an out after the first season, but when you look at it, the Bucs really need to like continue building on last year, and they need to win more than 9 games, in my opinion, because if they don't, then you're kind of begging the question, is Baker Mayfield going to lead you to the promised land? What's going to happen with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin even, and then Levante David? There will be another like set of needs to address next season. So when you look at it, like the Bucs really need to show that they're more than just winning the NFC South. They can actually compete with some of the heavier weight NFC teams.
And to set the record straight, I do believe that the ceiling for the Bucs is, around 12 games or something like that. So yeah. I do think this team has it in them to be a legit, I'll say, NFC championship contender and get to that game. I don't necessarily know if they can reach the Super Bowl just yet, but I think that's a step in the right direction. Again, coming out of the aftermath of Tom Brady retiring and Baker Mayfield taking over as the quarterback of this team. So the potential is in there. I just don't necessarily fully 100% believe that they're going to reach that potential at least this season. And then you have to decide what kind of direction do you want to go with your team. But that's another conversation for another day. If you really fully believe in this Buccaneers, whether it's the amount of wins they'll have this season or maybe the amount of touchdowns that Baker Mayfield will throw this year, if you want to bet on the Buccaneers this season, there's no better place to do it than over at MyBookie.ag. Sign up on their app using the promo code Pewter, that's Pewter, and get a first deposit bonus with MyBookie on their app. Obviously, football is coming up sooner rather than later. Someone posted today there's 84 days because they posted a picture of Cam Brate. There's 84 days until kickoff for the NFL, but there's still a lot of things to bet on. There's probably 1 or maybe 2 at most more games of the NBA Finals, but the Stanley Cup is still going on. I think the third game is either tonight or tomorrow, but the Panthers are up 2-0 in that series. The U.S.
Always
Open's
been
going
the
on
New
right
York
now.
Mets.
You can always bet on the Mets. They play the Marlins tonight, so they got a chance. I'm going to the Rays game tonight, and I'm 3-0 at Rays games. So I don't know. If you think by me going there again and the Rays will win, bet on them as they play the Cubs. The U.S. Open's going on right now. UFC fights are always going on. And the European World Cup is happening. And Team USA is in some type of tournament as well, too. So there's some soccer, a lot of different stuff. And, of course, the daily baseball. So that's a long way of me saying, if you want to bet on anything, head on over to MyBookie.ag. Use that promo code Pewter to get free money in your account. Even if you learn from Plant City Math, you know that is a heck of a deal. It's free money. It's free 99. So go to MyBookie. Use that promo code Pewter. Check out their online casino as well. It's awesome. It's just like you're at a casino anywhere that has casinos. They got all the games, blackjack, craps, roulette, all that fun stuff. So head on over to mybookie.ag using the promo code Pewter. We also spoke to Graham Barton today. Though it was fun talking to him. I think he's a very thorough guy with his responses. I think he kind of looks at everything with kind of being realistic about everything. He's like, I'm not the greatest rookie of all time. I'm not that smart. Like, I try to do all these things. Yeah, I just got here. So let's just go through a couple of the videos of Graham Barton. What do you have to say? We'll start with this one about still learning, but understanding it's okay to make mistakes because you want to make them now and not, on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and whenever regular season games are played.
I don't want to stand up here and just say I got it because there's a long way to go. We've only been here a couple weeks, but I definitely think the biggest thing I just told someone is not make it it's okay to make mistakes, but it's just about don't beat yourself up over making a mistake. Just correct it. Don't let it happen again. When you make it twice, that's when you get mad at yourself. But so I just think, keeping my head above water and taking it as much as I can, just trying to listen to everyone, understanding, my position as I'm a rookie. I just got here. I don't know anything. So just telling myself that and just trying to soak everything in is kind of in my mindset. And I feel like, I've gained a lot of knowledge from, the vets, the coaches, just, the meeting time on the field, just, sort of, feel like I've learned a ton and, excited to, take these next couple weeks and sort of, digest it and come back for training camp ready to roll.
That's what I was talking about, the self-awareness. So he's like, I'm a rookie. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But I thought that was great. He also spoke about the relationship with just the offensive line and then Baker as well. So we'll play 2 videos in a row.
Yeah, I told this to somebody the other day, just how great the offensive line room as a whole has been. Just a bunch of great guys in there. There's no, there's not a single, I can tell you this honestly, there's not a single bad apple. You know what I mean? Like everyone is here, wants to be here, comes ready to work. Super, just welcoming and really embrace the rookies and all of us. And so I think it's been just really fortunate to have an O-line room like that. So no matter who I'm out there playing with, it's been really awesome, and definitely have a lot of help from the vets and those guys. Yeah, I just think building trust is the biggest thing. Just wanting, I want Baker and I want the offensive line to be able to trust me. You know what I mean, at center. So when I'm in the huddle, just trying to be assertive. Knowing the offense. So when we get up to the line of scrimmage and there's a confusing look or something, I'm the one who knows the answers. I think, and just consistently being that person as a center, it kind of makes you the center that teams look for. The guy that knows the offense inside and out can get us out of a jam. So I think that's the biggest way I'm trying to build some trust. Is just hey, Graham knows what he's doing. He's here to work. We can trust him on the field, and I think that's sort of the biggest thing through OTAs is just starting that relationship.
And the only veteran we spoke to today was none other than Luke Goedeke. Adam, there was something a little bit different about Luke Goedeke.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything?
I think it was the fuzzy muzzy.
Yeah. Hey, his girlfriend likes it, so why
It's
not?
in now.
This is what he had to say about the mustache.
New look with your mustache and your longer hair. What's that about?
Just decided to switch it up, you know. My girlfriend says the muzzy's in now, so I figured I might as well switch it up a little bit. And then just wanted to grow out the hair a little bit.
The muzzy is in. I hope Bucs fans show up to games now with thicker mustaches because of Luke Goedeke. So, yeah, we'll see. And then on a little bit more of a serious note, he kind of talked about his kind of own personal work ethic of just never being satisfied, and then also obviously turning around this run game. So here's what else Luke Goedeke was talking about.
I'm just going to pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm just never satisfied. I mean, last year was last year. Obviously, I mean, it helps, like, knowing that, like, I can play at such a high level in the NFL, but I don't think I am anywhere near my full potential. I mean, I'm just going to keep growing and growing as an offensive tackle in this league, and that's what I'm looking forward to most, and just continue to work with the guys, especially and stuff like that, and just continue to grow as an individual and a football player. I'm just excited to get on guys in the run game and get after them. We got more wide zone and outside zone coming in and everything like that, so looking forward to getting running off the ball and stuff like that, as well as downhill runs with like dual and our powers and stuff like that, and taking them just vertical, just really gritty runs.
And then last but certainly not least, just talking about where the offense is now. It's in a good spot, but not the perfect spot.
I mean, I think we're right where we want to be, but like eons away from where we need to be, obviously. I mean, you guys saw it last year with learning a new offense. It does take time for it all to click and come together and everything. And I mean, that's just comes with having a new offense and everything. It just takes time, but I think we're at a good spot and everything.
While Luke Goedeke is looking to move defenders, if you need to move homes, the best people to work with is Eric Gross and the Eric Gross Group. It takes a full team effort to win a football game, and it takes a full team effort to win in real estate. The Eric Gross Group has done hundreds of transactions in this crazy real estate market and has experience in all types of situations. Their clients are not just transactions, they are lifelong friendships. So don't let the stress of buying or selling a home keep you out of the game. Let the Eric Gross Group take the pressure off. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Eric Gross Group. Check out their website at housesandfla.com. Give them a call at 513-907-4271. That number is 513-907-4271. No matter where you are in your home ownership journey, you'll feel welcome with the Eric Gross Group, the official realtor of PewterReport.com. Well, it's been a great week of practices for the Buccaneers, watching them work hard every single day. So we're going to
flown by.
It has. It absolutely has. So we're going to put a bow on minicamp on Monday's show, talking about the winners and losers from Buccaneers minicamp. You've heard us mention a couple people, but we'll kind of all file it under one umbrella on Monday's show. And, you know, then we still got shows 4 times a week just because the Bucs aren't playing. We still will be discussing your favorite team. We'll try to do obviously topical things with the Bucs, but maybe, you know, go off the beaten path a little bit, as well as we can kind of stretch out some of the conversation a little bit more. So, yeah, plan for more fun stuff week in and week out. We love when you guys contribute as well. So, yeah, with everything that we got going on, we appreciate all of you, the Pewter people, as well. So if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff at Pewter Report. And then our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Help us get those subscribers up. If you like all the videos we do, various content all over the place on our YouTube channel, including the podcast. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment as well. That's going to do it for us on this show and for the week. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on Monday at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Have a good one. Out.
Out.